If they do that, they're going to be, the Cougars will be very, 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 very tough to beat.
Off the window, no. Roberts tried to get it. Shed for the win. Got it.
Just with 14 points, but you just look, the way that he dominated the game was in controlling the pace and making smart decision after decision.
Call him by slammer down.
Go to pizza spot before or after.
The dream is alive for Houston. Go Cougs! Let's go!
Welcome in to this special edition of Let's Rage Coogs on a Sunday afternoon. We are coming off the heels, not of a game, but of obviously the biggest news when it relates to the University of Houston Athletics Department. On Saturday afternoon, U of H named its next vice president for Intercollegiate Athletics, fancy way of saying athletic director, and it has been named Eddie Nunez. He is the next man for the job to really be the head of the table of the UH athletic department. We're going to get all into the news. Here's some reaction, what the big wigs when it comes to the University of Houston has said about Nuñez, and kind of a look at his track record. But before we do, my name is Yanez. We'd like to welcome each and every single one of you to the show. We're trying to figure out the Twitter aspect. Hopefully we'll get that ready for the first football game of the season. But for now, we're only streaming on YouTube. Joining me, as always, Dayon, Dunlap, and Kris, Gardner of the Houston Volleyball Review. How y'all doing?
I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great.
I'm doing well as well, man. I'm glad they found a hire.
Well, to quote LeBron James, it's about damn time that they hired an athletics director. It has been over a month since, quite frankly, it was shocking that they decided to move in a different direction.
Almost 2 months.
Exactly. Really shocking it was in the moment when they chose to move away from Kris. I think when we did a live reaction show when it first happened, it kind of caught us off guard just in terms of when they decided to make the move, and they definitely did take their time in making the hire just under 2 weeks from, I guess they did it yesterday, so it was exactly 2 weeks away from when the Houston football team was scheduled to kick off their 2024 season under the new era of Willie Fritz when they take on UNLV. But it finally happened. Eddie Nunez is their guy, obviously. Not even a full 24 hours since the move was announced officially, but it seems to be a lot of mixed reviews when it comes to UH fan community, UH alumni, UH supporters of the move. Go around the table. What are your guys' thoughts and opinions on the move of Eddie Nunez, who comes from the University of New Mexico?
Yeah, you go first, brother.
Well, for me, just kind of reading the information, Kris sent me a lot of information. There was a lot of good information that reported about the Houston reporters. And it seems like he's qualified. And so I don't know the particulars in reference of his resume, what he's done and hasn't done. But I think from his time in LSU, from his time previously at New Mexico, I think he's ready. I mean, I think he's qualified. And so I'm love to hear Kris's perspective, because I think he can give more of a deep dive and more informational dive on Mr. Nuñez.
I think it's a solid hire. He was initially reported as the front runner, and then Ryan Alpert came in, kind of swooped in at the last minute, really, according to some sources, and made it to the final two, the two finalists between Nuñez and Alpert. Nuñez has been an AD before. Ryan Alpert, I think, was been in the deputy position. Did a lot of success at Tennessee raising money, but Nuñez had a lot of success at LSU raising money. $400 million compared to $500 million. I mean, you wait to love either one of those numbers to come to athletics. So I'm kind of curious to see any of the viewers who don't like the hire, what are the reasons for it? Because I'm going to say this. I reached out to some folks, colleagues in Memphis. Ryan Alpert worked at Memphis almost 5 years. He applied to be AD at Memphis. Memphis did not hire him. Okay? So he worked there 4 or 5 years, but they didn't hire him as AD. So there's some reason for that. He's had great success at Tennessee in this 2+ years he's been there. But it sounds like Tilman and President Khator wanted someone who has had AD experience, or as the official title is, Vice President of Intercollegiate Intercollegiate Athletics. So Eddie Nunez, I look forward to working with him. I hope he develops and maintains a relationship with Les Rage Coogs, Paul Samajama, Houston Round Ball Review, and does not ignore us or run away from us when he sees us on campus at games. I'll say that publicly, like a certain person did before, who's no longer here. We're not trying to take personal shots. We are here to promote UH athletics. But we're also going to be critical if it's due and justified. And if you don't like that, well, that's a you problem. So we're not going to say it's all sunshine when it's not. That's not our job. But that's part of what we do here on Let's Rage Coogs is tell it like it is and tell it like it's been told to us and share that info and insight with our viewers.
Yes, sir. Kris couldn't have said it any better myself. Now let's get into some specifics when it comes to the deal that brought Eddie Nunez to the University of Houston, like you mentioned, to be the new athletics director. It was officially stated in the release he's agreed to a 5-year deal. The numbers behind it haven't officially been disclosed yet, but he's at least 5 years on the deal. And really the biggest things that stood out to me, and we can get a little bit more about what some outlets are reporting about really the mindset when it comes to Renu Khator and Tilman Fertitta, but this is strictly based on the news release that they shared when they officially released the news. What stood out to me is specifically Tilman Fertitta's comments about the hire. And this is a direct quote again from the release, in which Fertitta is quoted as saying that Nuñez joins a strong Cougars program with great head coaches already in place, which will allow him to focus on raising revenue and planning for the future of UH athletics, end quote. Again, that is from Tilman Fertitta, quoted in the news release. And we said it throughout the process, even going back to Big 12 media days, even when we asked both head coach Kelvin Sampson and Willie Fritz, respectively, shortly after they had made the move away from Kris Besman, Kelvin Sampson said one of the biggest things that new athletic director is going to have to be able to do in this ever-evolving world of college athletics, raise money. And we all heard from various different people when it comes to one of the main reasons why they decided to move away from Besman is because he just wasn't cutting it in that department. And that's going to be the biggest focal point for Eddie Nunez in really succeeding in his role here. In that quote in particular, great head coaches established. Kris, Dayon, we can get a little bit in that as well, but we all agree that's the main focal point for UH with this hire. They need money. They need the athletics department to be able to kind of stand on its own in that department. That's going to be a crucial aspect in whether Nuñez is successful or not at the University of Houston.
Yeah, Nuñez comes into a unique situation. Men's basketball head coach, set, solid. Football head coach has already been hired. So the two biggest hires typically for an AD are out of his hands, out of his control. He can focus on money and also focus on hiring other coaches who have not performed up to par and clearly up to the Kelvin Sampson standard that has been set on campus. And I hope that Mr. Nuñez is not afraid to pull the trigger on making changes in coaches. And I hope he's given the leeway to do so. I'm going to say this, and Dayon and y'all can chime in, but I hope Eddie Nunez is allowed to do his job without interference from outside people, higher ups. He was hired here. He got a 5-year deal here. Let him do his job.
To piggyback right off what Kris is hinting at, I agree. Let him do his job and let him hold coaches accountable for what they've produced up until this point. And I think this next season and certain coaches who haven't been able to produce wins as the standard that Coach Sampson set, I think the contracts and some of them are set up to where it's a prove a year. Prove it. If you succeed and get over that hump, then potentially you may be extended. Or if not, you'll be held accountable. So it's kind of it's good, like Kris said, the top two hires, regardless of football, basketball, already set. Now in those other sports, I feel like he has that opportunity if he's allowed, like Kris alluded to do his job and make the right, I don't want to say right decision, make a decision based on the results that they were able to produce in those respective sports. But raising money, that's the key thing. I mean, can he be able to reach, like Kris said in our previous episode, some of those smaller alums business that can donate certain amounts versus, I know you want the big corporations, but Houston is so big, has so many opportunities to network and get people to invest in Houston in the sports department. I think he has to exercise every avenue and look to reach as many people as he can versus going over those top big donors, in which Houston has the ability to go after those as well.
Andy, what do you say?
I think when it comes to, like I said, there was a lot of mixed reaction from UH fans about the hire. To be honest, I think a lot of that mixed reaction is because, quite frankly, they just didn't know much about Eddie Nunez. At the end of the day, it comes out to a wait and see approach. The biggest thing from what we've seen, one in the news release, and even what other outlets have reported, like specifically from Paper City, Chris Baldwin spoke with both Renu Khator and Tilman Fertitta, and what really stood out to me about that story when it comes to Renu Khator's mindset is that she was really blown away by, there's something that she saw in Nuñez that really stood out throughout the entire process. Now, going back to, like we mentioned, how long it took this process to get an athletic director, Tilman Fertitta said the reason for it is because of they vetted out the process. Whether that's the exact reason why it took almost 2 months for the process, hopefully that is the case, and they got the actual guy that they wanted. But at the end of the day, whether it's a success or not, it's going to come down to whether he's able to generate money. In that same article from Paper City, Renu Khator says she wants to double the revenue from the athletics department, which, I mean, that is a huge, huge goal I mean, it sounds good on paper, and it sounds good being said. How realistic that happens within a 5-year window, if that's truly the timetable that Nuñez gets, he's going to have to be charismatic. He's going to have to find a way to get into conversations that, quite frankly, Pesman in the past just was not a part of, because while there are a lot of different alums, different businesses, to get that type of money to double the revenue, it has to be those corporate sponsors, which there's a lot of competition when you look at the pro teams that have had that success. I mean, let's be honest, those big corporate sponsors, not to limit it to one industry, but the key pivotal industry here in the city of Houston has to be some of that oil money, some of those oil companies. Get those into the University of Houston, which will be difficult in the state of Texas because of, well, the big two across the state, which is A&M and UT. They've got to find a way to get some of that money into campus at the University of Houston. That's how you're going to be able to reach that goal. So hopefully Nuñez is charismatic. We mentioned what he's done in previous stops, and really they touted his success at LSU. He was a part of when the university was raised for around $400 million for different facilities that they constructed and renovated, and even what he was able to do at New Mexico. He's going to have to come in here and find the most success at the University of Houston, because that's clearly what they want outside of just the actual success when it comes to the sports teams. Because, Kris, like you said, they're set when it comes to basketball and football. Kelvin Sampson's going to be here for as long as, however, Kelvin Sampson wants to be the head coach at U of H. And once he does decide that he's going to move on, they already have that plan in place. It's going to be Kelvin Sampson that takes over. And the same thing for football. Like, Willie Fritz is going to be here for the foreseeable future. So it doesn't have to worry about those two programs at least for the next 2-3 years. His main focus is how do we get that revenue to, in the case of Khator, double over the course of the next few years.
And now that Coach Fritz is in charge, gotta say it. The previous head coach at New Mexico, I think Nuñez hired Danny Gonzalez. 4 years, previous 4 years, because Nuñez did hire Bronco Mendenhall for this coming season. Gonzalez went 11-32 in his 4 years at New Mexico. Well, Coach Fritz is in charge here, so Nuñez doesn't have to worry about filling that spot. But it comes down to some fundraising, and I'm curious to see the reaction. And I think, was it you, maybe in Joseph Duarte in previous shows, who said, do not leave any stone unturned when it comes down to seeking money and going out there and raising funds. Doubling the budget, UH budget, is dead last among power programs. As Andy, you said it, doubling the budget, athletic budget, sounds great. Is it realistic? I mean, you got to do things differently, that's for sure, because what has been done didn't work. Who do you go to? What companies do you go to? And I'm sure, and there are people in town who want to support and give back to their alma mater who were never contacted. So you can start with them.
Mm-hmm.
But you got.
And I was wondering.
Go
Oh, go ahead, Chris.
No,
I was just wondering, as you were saying that, what was his pitch be in his interviewing process? What's the that's what I'm wondering. As Chris, you were saying what you were saying. I wonder what's his pitch, what's his strategies to reach some of those folks that Andy and Cruz alluded to, with some of those corporations or people that want to donate that haven't been contacted, or maybe they just didn't trust the leadership and the message, and they want a new voice. So there's different ways. So I personally, I want to give the man a shot, see what he can do. He has the experience. He has, he's been around certain schools that have big money, and like LSU, and so some of those I want to within those experience did he hold on to and feel like he can implement in Houston to be able to double the budget.
And Miss Wanda's, Andy, real quick, I just want to say this. Mm-hmm. We haven't heard from coaches yet. At least I haven't heard from any coach directly, and no one's been quoted. I haven't heard from the head man, Coach Sampson, just yet, but we'll get there. Go ahead, Andy.
Yeah, would you like to thank each and every single person just taking the time out of their Sunday afternoon here to join us on this special edition of Let's Rage Coogs, reacting to the University of Houston's hiring of Eddie Nunez to be the next athletic director for the university. We also like to say thank you to today's sponsor of Let's Rage Coogs. Star Pizza is our sponsor for today's show, and Star Pizza has 3 locations across the Houston area, and they are your go-to stop before or after the game, or in this case, after the announcement of a new athletic director. Be sure to stop by any of their locations every Tuesday and Friday during lunch. They've expanded their all-you-can-eat pizza buffet at their location. So once again, make sure you stop by every Tuesday and Friday for an all-you-can-eat pizza buffet. Star Pizza, as always, has free delivery since 1976. And big thank you to them for being a sponsor on today's episode of Let's Rage Coogs. Let's get into some of those comments. Kris, you mentioned one poke. She asked if there were any responses from the UH coaches. I would imagine that at minimum, Kelvin Sampson must have been involved in the process. So you would tend to logically think that he approved of the hire, and I imagine Willie Fritz had some type of input, regardless of how big it might have been. I want to bring up this comment from NRG Texan. And I think we can all agree when it comes to if we had to rank priorities, these sports, while it sucks to say, the number one priority right now is raising money. That's obvious from everything that they've released with the news releases. But NRG Texan is spot on when it comes to the athletic director position. Once it comes to on the field or on the court, decisions that are going to have to be made. It's with these sports, starting with women's basketball, baseball, who we've talked about for several quite frankly, for several years when it comes to these programs about how they've struggled. No changes have been made. Softball, we heard about the issues that have been coming out of that program. Men's golf, cross country, there's going to be some decisions that have to be made now. Priority, I'm not entirely sure how much priority that is. We would hope, like Dayon said, this year, if it's not making changes right away, it's kind of like a tryout year. Can you turn it around? What can you do under Nuñez the first year? And then if it's not cutting, well, time to move on and clean house and really establish your own identity when it comes to Eddie Nunez across this athletic program.
Before you go, Kris, another sport that we aren't mentioning that has a great head coach and foundation set in stone is UH track. That's something I think they also needed an investment in helping them take what they have already done to the next level. I think it's a lot of investment on unleveled field that they're on, even having the Hall of Fame and the legend Carl Lewis at the helm. They still need even more invested into to allow them to take their success and take that to the next level as they continue to get better and better.
And I'm glad you said that because I was going to say that because men's basketball, volleyball, track and field have already shown in terms of comparison to other power programs, they have achieved success with less. Okay. They've done more with less. Swimming and diving as well. They've done more with less. So imagine what they could do with more investment in their programs. Ms. Nuñez's job, yes, is fundraising. The only thing he would lose me with right now, the rest of this calendar year, is if he extends contracts to softball, to golf, to women's basketball based on nothing. Okay, just based on, well, I want to give them another year. What the hell for? If you haven't already seen they have not achieved, extending them is a waste of time. Okay, I'm not saying he's going to do that, but I'm saying he would really piss me off if he did that between now and December 31st. I don't think he will. I hope he won't. But fundraising, without a doubt, is important. And I'm assuming you wait to announce at some point soon the hire of Allison White, who's in charge of major gifts fundraising. But as one alum told me, okay, what about the minor gifts? She's being charged of that too. Because as we've said, all the money adds up. You know, yes, it'd be nice to get those major corporations and huge dollars. Clearly, if somebody wants to donate, write a check for $25 million, great. But what about getting $1 million from 25 folks? That adds up too. So don't forget about them as well. I want to say this for my brothers here on this Let's Rage Coogs. I think we've done a lot with less. Okay, we've done more with less. Imagine what we could do with more. And that's still our goal. We always talk about onward and upward. So it all ties together. This is not a 1 year, one hit wonder. Let's Rage Coogs. We're in this for the long haul. Okay, we got plans and big plans and ideas, and we want to help continue to promote and discuss youth athletics. Just like Eddie Nunez's job is to raise money. Well, you know, that's part of it. But we're going to talk about the Cougs, good and bad. And at some point, we would like to be on the road with the Cougs, good and bad. All of us, Dayon, Andy, and me, on the road with the football team, with the basketball teams, as many sports as possible. But all of that ties into the one thing, some alums are burned out. But it goes back to what Dan made a great point. I wonder what Mr. Nuñez's pitch, what is his vision going to be to the money folks, to the alums? What is he going to say to sell them on investing in Houston Cougars athletics in this time in college sports where revenue is needed by everybody from Ohio State on down?
Well, only time will tell. Real quickly before we move on, I'd like to once again give a shout out to Mike and Jennifer Pittman with Star Pizza. They have 3 different locations across the Houston area. Once again, Star Pizza is your go-to stop before or after the game, or shoot, after work. If you need a place you can never go wrong with pizza, be sure to stop by any one of those 3 locations throughout the Houston area. And especially be sure to stop by Tuesday or Friday during lunchtime for an all-you-can-eat pizza buffet. Star Pizza, as always, has free delivery since 1976. And once again, we thank Star Pizza for being a sponsor on today's show. Speaking of Star Pizza, Hoop and Holler joins the conversation, and they say Hoop and Holler says, "Preach, Kris, preach."
And that pizza is great, man. Oh man, it's some great stuff. Dayon, brother, you got to come down here one day. You got to go over there, man. It is outstanding, man.
Mm-hmm. Especially the crust. I love the crust. I think I've probably hammered that point too much, but whenever you get a chance, whenever you come down to Houston, definitely need to stop by.
The dessert pizza is decadent. Oh my goodness. It's man, oh man. Ryan, slide over to you right a little bit, man.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think that's the perfect way to bring them into the crowd.
Yeah, bring them just like that.
Joining us, Ryan Monceaux of Go Cougs GoCougs.com. We need to we'll adjust the banner for a second so we don't block your name. But Ryan
good
Monceaux,
idea.
GoCougs.com. How are you doing, sir?
I'm great. First day and forever. I'm not at football practice, so I'm excited.
Yeah, I was just about to say you kind of developed a 10. What I was gonna ask is how much input did you have on this new athletic director hire? Because I know they had to call you before it got set in stone.
I called Eddie a few weeks ago and said, "Look, Albuquerque's not working for you. Maybe try Houston." And he negotiated hard, and he wants to get some deals at Saltgrass, but we got it done. And I never interacted with him at LSU. I think he got there right after I left. But everybody just said he was fantastic, and he moved in and out of roles and did different things. And he oversaw the things that are really important here. He oversaw men's basketball. He oversaw the athletic department's relationship with their fundraising arm, the Tiger Athletic Foundation.
Mm-hmm.
And he oversaw licensing and branding. Well, this school could use a lot of work on licensing and branding. And so hopefully he's able to bring that all together and also raise money. And that's really the whole job right now, is raising money. You've got head coaches in your top 2 sports that are set. You don't have to worry about them. You don't have to bother them. Just anything they need, you try to find it for them.
Ryan, your
Kris.
thoughts on this, because this is the biggest question I think all of us really wonder and would like answered. Will Eddie Nunez be allowed to do his job without people butting in?
Well, there's been no evidence of that to this point in prior ADs or with prior ADs. At some point, you have to realize that the formula you're going with isn't working.
Thank you.
And the formula is go to the same people to ask for money, and anything that is a show, that it gets taken from the AD's hands and goes across Cullen, and then the fallout goes back to the other side of Cullen. I think you need a guy who has autonomy, and I mean, we'll just have to see if that happens.
Ryan, like you had mentioned just a few moments ago, the big priority for New to be able to raise money, and like you mentioned, getting it from really donor sponsors that haven't in the past. Big corporations, that's got to be where the money comes from. How realistic do you think that can be, or what's the process going to be like for him to be able to get in those conversations? Because it is difficult. That's clearly been the biggest problem the U of H has had when it comes to the athletic program by itself, being able to fundraise and kind of stand on its own when it comes to the financial side.
So there's a group of companies in this city that are laser focused with the Rockets, the Astros, and the Texans, right? You're probably not going to permeate that. You're probably not going to get them to pull money from those relationships and put in here. But there's another group that's just below them that can't get in. It's okay. They have a car dealer, or a car brand. So my brand can't be there. Or there's an oil company that just isn't involved with any of them. There's a next level, and that's a level you have to attack. You don't have to go right up against the Rockets or the Texans or the Astros. You can say, look, okay, we'll go to that next level. And the marketing dollar, the dollars you're going to ask for in sponsorships are less than the Texans and the Astros and the Rockets. And so you can find that. It's just getting a plan and putting people in place who you trust and who can get it done.
Ryan, what's your let's right now, Ryan Monceaux, you are now Eddie Nunez. What is your pitch to the corporate folks in Houston, in and around Houston, to come invest in Houston athletics?
Please help.
Okay, yes. How can we help you, Eddie? How can we help you? What do you need from us?
You pitch it as, we are on the cutting edge. We are in living rooms all across this region every week in basketball and football. You're playing local schools. You're playing, the fans and the parents of these kids come from Louisiana. They come from Texas. We can get you in those doors. You have to be creative in how you do these things. It's not just how it's always been done with everybody else. If you go to UT and look how they're doing it and then say, oh, we're going to do it that way, well, then you're lost. You've lost. If you go to the Rockets or the Texans to look at how they did it, you're lost. And that's why I was kind of glad the LSSE guy did not make it. I just don't understand the thinking of, hey, that guy really marketed Taylor Swift well, or he really marketed the Copa Americas really well, so we should bring him in. I mean, everything he gets to market over there markets itself.
Yeah.
This does not. And you have to, it's weird to say, but you have to find companies that have chips on their shoulder too. You've got to have companies that have a similarity to your situation and embrace that and figure out creative ways to get them involved.
What about in reference of marketing and branding? What would be your approach, or what do you guys view that should be his approach, Mr.
Well, the last 6 ADs have all changed the U of H logo when they got here. So if he's going to do that, he needs to go back to a skinny logo and say, we're just using this. I don't care. We're going to this. I think the skinny logo today in this market would sell 3 times what all the others have sold. I think that is iconic. It is exactly who you are. And they've ran from it for 26 years. Go back to it. Go back to the stripes on the helmet with the skinny logo, red and some white helmets. I guess you're going to do a black game. I guess you're going to do an Oilers blue game. Fine. But that skinny logo, I think that's just where you have to go from a branding perspective. That said, everybody wants to create their own version, and I don't think that's the best way to go. I think vintage classic is the best situation possible.
It's worked for other teams. Just look at the Astros. They went back to a little bit of a throwback, and they've had success. Kris, to kind of, I'm going to take Eddie Nunez's hat from Ryan and put it on for a second. The way that I would go about trying to sell it, especially when it comes to men's basketball and football. I mean, you got to focus on men's basketball and the national relevance that Kelvin Sampson has established in the program. Because out of the 30-plus regular season games that they play, what we would say that about at least 24 of those around there are national media games. They're going to have some type of ESPN connection. Around
ESPN,
that mark.
Well, I mean, hell, almost all of them.
Not counting ESPN Plus.
Every game is going to be on there. Yeah.
Yeah, almost every game is televised. Yeah.
That's a national audience. You're going to get your brand there. Brian, you made a great point when it comes to they have to find companies that share that identity. That, not to sound cliche and steal this term, but honestly, it's a blue collar identity that the University of Houston in general has always had. And by reaching out to them, kind of pitching it, you're going to have an opportunity to be exposed to a national market and really sell on Willie Fritz, what he was able to do at Tulane. That's the reason you hired him. He has the proven track record that he was able to do it. One, at a private school with what's really, we've touched on limited resources. So now imagine if he's able to get more resources here at U of H. He already has better resources than he had at Tulane. If you continue to invest in it, it's only going to continue to grow. And then U of H football will be hopefully in that same atmosphere that the U of H men's basketball team has been able to do. And that's what you sell, that vision. That's how it's going to help your company reach a national audience. And most definitely it will reach a local audience. And for lack of a better comparison, it's kind of like recruiting. And at this point, you're selling a vision. You're kind of like when Kelvin Sampson first took over, you're selling him the Gavy Lewis that they're expecting to construct, and the Fertitta Center that they're gonna expecting to construct, because I mean, that's really the only thing you can sell at this point. Outside of men's basketball, there's not a huge track record you can do. And hopefully you get those companies that, like Ryan said, have been on the outside looking in when it comes to the Rockets, Astros, and Texans, and go from there. That's got to be your pitch, in my opinion.
I agree with part of EI Crabtree here. Part of it, and part I don't. The first part I do. I hope he is aggressive like Kris the Conti at Texas, but I mean, that is Texas, but still be aggressive. But in college athletics, you have to be excellent in every sport. Not necessarily true. You need to be excellent in football and men's basketball. Okay, those are the two. And then you would like your other sports to be excellent within their own sport. I mean, it'd be great if women's basketball had the next Caitlin Clark. But the money generated from that would not come close to Willie Fritz and a national championship in football, okay, or a big bowl win or a CFP or anything like that. But yeah, football and men's basketball, those become excellent. Men's hoops already is, but get football up to that national relevant. That will go a long way in really boosting the overall thought process and fundraising for UH athletics. No comment?
No, you're right. What I was gonna do the point another when it comes to merchandising and marketing, whatever they come up, say they Eddie Nunez takes Ryan's idea and goes with a change of logo, goes back to a throwback with the skinny U of H logo. They have to, man, just capitalize it. Don't be like what they did with the Love You Houston merchandise, and don't give fans the opportunity to engage with it. One, make sure that you won't sued if you get sell it, but they just got to do things better than they have over the course of the last few years, and stuff like that. It all factors in, because they would have made a ton of money had they been able to capitalize all that Love You Houston merchandise. And they just weren't able to do it. And even Rice, when they had unveiled their version, obviously it was very different from what U of H did, but they were able to sell merchandise. They capitalized on it. So if Rice could do it, there's no reason why you yourself as the University of Houston could not do it.
Ryan, I got a question for you. Answer it. You're a smart guy. You know how to answer it. You have any positive, any update regarding the ticket department?
No.
Like in terms of staffing and things of that sort?
You'll probably get your tickets in the next 2 weeks. I think you will.
That's better than nothing. Probably, yeah.
I think it's an unsettled thing. It hasn't really been talked about. I've just not gotten into it because after 3 hours at football practice, I'm worn out. It is so hot, and I haven't gone and kind of dug around like maybe I should have. And I think other people are not digging around because it's kind of a touchy subject right now. So there are bad things in tickets. Hopefully it's getting fixed. I mean, you have to assume that they're kind of an all hands on deck right now. But I don't have any sort of update.
Have you, Dayon,
on
or
tickets.
Andy, how are ticket sales going for the season opener? That's what I really want to know.
That I couldn't tell you. They have not advertised like they did last year, but it's just a whole different situation. The schedule is nowhere close to as good as it was last year, and it's not the first year of the Big 12, and so there's a couple different things. You would think that all the people that were fed up with Dana would be excited by this, but it's August 31st in July or in Houston. And, who's really going to show up for that? I hope people are excited for it, see what it's going to be, understand it's a process. It's not everything's going to be fixed on August 31st. There's still some spots that are iffy on this team. but you have to believe in what Willie has done with recruiting and just really in every way they can. They've worked on fixing the NIL situation. Still a long ways to go. They have recruited incredibly well. And I have seen you. It's just a different team in practice. It's so much more structured. It's so much more decent. Just the way they demand everyone give full effort and run to the end zone. If you're a ball carrier or a receiver and you catch a ball, if you get tackled or tagged, as they're doing in most practices, not full on tackling, you're still expected to go all the way to the end zone, where you hand the ball to the official and they get it back to the line. You're going to see that in every game. Every ball carrier is going to hand the ball to an official. And it's a small thing, but it's a team discipline. And it helps build all the rest. And so I think that's going to be really good. I think there's a lot of things to get excited about. Seeing how this team grows from the 31st of August to October 1st to November 1st to December 1st, I don't know what to expect because all I've seen is them up against each other.
Mhm.
And okay, you're really good or you're really bad, that doesn't tell you anything.
Do you guys
I didn't answer the question at all.
Go ahead, Dan. Go ahead.
You guys think it's a marketing opportunity to market Willie Fritz, not only what he's done, but a new regime, a new head guy, good with recruiting, all that he's done to be able to market that, and even from a media's perspective, I think it's easy to get clips of him just at practice with his shirt on, blowing a whistle, and those things that are quote unquote behind the scenes, but not showing behind the scenes, to be able to use that as marketing to kind of build some type of anticipation or marketing the football team with tickets or just things like that.
I think in a nutshell, and we've touched on it, Dan, you and me and Andy have really said this. One thing they need to, for now, is market hope. Coach Fritz is giving hope to fans who became disillusioned with that previous guy. That guy is now up there in Fort Worth getting whatever. But Coach Fritz is hope for football fans of the University of Houston. This year, they may not win a lot of games, but they're going to be prepared. The foundation is being laid for the future this year. So, and Ryan said it. I agree with it. The team you see on August 31st against UNLV, they'll be better in November. And they'll be better as the season progresses. This is going on. But this year, Coach Fritz is hope for all those fans who just gave up on that previous regime.
Wanda Polk says that for her, football season tickets were mailed out on Friday, so hopefully that's a positive sign. And to add on to y'all's points, Dayon, you touched on marketing around Willie Fritz, and Ryan, you can really attest to this because, like you said, you practically lived there for the past 3 weeks over there by the football practice facility. But under Willie Fritz, they've just opened it up so much more to media. Like you can go to the entire practice, which was never the case in previous years. And Willie Fritz, even I've only went to the first practice, but Willie Fritz said, like, we're giving y'all access. You have all the access. And that it's a small thing for us, but it's huge. It's huge. And Ryan can attest. I'm sure he's been able to get so much more this training camp and even going back to the spring than he has in previous years, just because the coaching staff and Willie Fritz specifically as the head coach has allowed that to be the case. And it's not like people are walking on eggshells or they're micromanaging what you could post, which in previous years it seemed to be the case.
It's different. It's fun. I know the players so much better going into this season and their skills and their strengths than I ever have. And it's just watching. And, been fortunate to be able to be there almost every day. And I think I've talked to every guy on the roster. If I haven't, I'm really close. And so, I mean, I've never had that kind of access in football. And it's fun. And I hope that our coverage has shown that this is kind of a different thing. And they're giving us access, and we're seeing things that we've never seen before.
Richie Rich brings up a good point. Last question. Are tickets mailed anymore, or is it all email digital?
I believe it's all digital. And it goes into your wallet on your phone. But I can't tell you 100%.
Okay. Because I know for the TBT stuff, I mean, it's not the same really, but I mean, media, we were emailed the parking stuff and things like, you know, it was put on our digital wallet kind of thing. So,
which is how football has been for the past few years too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm hoping that's still the case. So, you know.
Star Pizza.
Yeah, Star Pizza. Let's go.
It's excellent. So when are you going to go back there, Ryan? When are you going to go back there to Star Pizza?
They're sending stuff to Brad for our show tonight. I am not getting. I had it last week.
See, so I asked him, when is he going to go back to Star Pizza?
I think it's this Thursday night. How's that?
Thank you, sir. Because one time
either this Thursday night or the next Thursday night.
All right.
I'm going to go with the specialists, the kickers, the punters, the long snappers, and kind of document what they do on Thursday nights there.
Okay. Miss Wanda says they were emailed. Her tickets were emailed. She needs to call about her volleyball tickets, season tickets. All right. Fair enough. Yep. There we go.
All right. As we begin to kind of wrap things down, I do want to ask Ryan just overall in general. I know he mentioned he's been at football practice basically for the majority of training camp, if not all of it. But anything that stood out, or like you said, it's them practicing against each other, so it doesn't really give you a good gauge of what they'll look like on August 31st. But anything that, whether it be a story, a player, a drill, how stuff is run, what stood out to you about training camp?
There's a lot of stories. Mike Bratton, the linebacker who was at Louisiana Monroe and at Louisiana and at HBU and at Blinn College and at Nassau Community College on Long Island.
Wow.
There might be one other school he was at. He's been everywhere, but he's a ball player, and he's immediately won over his teammates. Like, they all believe in him. And so he'll be fascinating to watch all year. I think that there are some receivers that are going to surprise you. Jonah Wilson is going to start, number 4. He had a touchdown grab kind of late in the season at home. And it was like his first taste. And now he has shown that he's one of the best guys. There's a small guy, number 83, Makai Muse, who I love. I think there's something there. Rashawn Sanford, the running back, had a great scrimmage yesterday. Broke a big one for 77 yards for a touchdown. Put a great juke move on a linebacker. They were doing first and goal line situations. Did that. He had a really nice day. The transfer from Tulsa, Devon Williams, had a really nice day. He flew past the defensive backs and caught a ball in stride. I think it was about 80-yard touchdown. So, and that's like the first times that you've seen the offense kind of get the best of the defense. I believe the long touchdown run and then the long pass were both second team offenses. So we'll see. I think the defense is still pretty well ahead of the offense, although the offensive line had a good day yesterday. But yeah, there's a lot of stories, and you know, you've got a new freshman Australian punter who came to America 2 months ago and had never been here. and is 18 or 19 years old and learning the game, still doesn't really understand the huddle. He'll be out there on the field ready to go and everybody's huddling. He's like, crap. And he goes back. But he's awesome. He's fantastic to talk to. And so hopefully he has a good season and people get to see more of his personality. He's like a Dane Roy in terms of personality.
Ryan, from what you've seen, have you changed your win-loss prediction? I think you told, what is it, 4?
3.
3 or 4?
Yeah. I'm at 3. And that's just because you lost some very important guys. You replaced them. But I don't know if that level that you replaced them is at the level that you were at. And the level you were at was at 4 wins. So I'm not sure. And I will be glad to be wrong.
Right.
But I need to see it. I think there are pieces. Can it turn into a full team and go out and beat people? And I think this first game is a real test. And then you go to OU, and then you get Rice. And, okay. Theoretically, you should be 2-1, but, there is a situation you could be 0-3.
Yep.
And that doesn't mean Willie's bad, or it's just, where you're coming from.
Exactly. And it would take longer than some folks want to acknowledge. That's all. Yeah.
Coaches used to get 4 years, and then it was 3 years, and now it's kind of 2. I think by the end of year 2, you're going to see real progress.
Yeah.
But you have to get there, and we'll see if people are patient enough to get there.
Well, I'll say this. Go ahead, Brian. I'm sorry.
One of the storylines I didn't talk about are the tight ends, and the tight ends in this offense are going to be used more than you've ever seen. In the running game, 2 tight end sets. They're going to split out wide. They've been running routes where tight ends are going on fade routes in the corner.
Wow.
I mean, it's some different stuff. Malik Carr, number 6, the transfer from Purdue and Michigan State, and Jaden York, number 13.
Mm-hmm.
Funny dude.
Yeah.
Funny. Jaden York is probably going to be the starter, although they're going to use Carr and York so much, it doesn't really matter who the starter is. But we're going to have Jaden on our show tonight, our 8 o'clock live, talking about them Cougars. He's going to be with Joseph Manjack. They are BFF, and I am looking forward to the trash they talk. We're going to have Kelvin Sampson, also Galen Robinson, the Godfather, and the quarterback commit, Austin Carlisle.
Excellent.
A lot of people.
Yeah.
I was going to say this just real quick. For folks who are fans of the men's basketball program, just remember what that team did the first 2 years under Coach Sampson. And look at where they are now. Okay, so if Coach Fritz in football, oh man, after 2 years, boy, it's not what I thought, but you can see them getting better. And that's what's going to happen. And then look at men's basketball. That's what I'm going to say. I trust Coach Fritz a hell of a lot more to get it done than that previous guy.
Hoop and Holler says they think you can get paper tickets mailed, but you have to select that when you purchase the season ticket. And Brandon Chiser says he also got his football tickets on Friday. So it seems like they got it on top of it. That's pretty much going to do it for today's show. Ryan, I'll toss it over to you. You kind of already self-plugged, but feel free to self-plug again. Or, I mean, most importantly, the last thing you need to talk about, you didn't give an update on the kicking battle, man. What have you seen from the kickers this training camp?
Joseph Kim, number 43, I think is challenging Jack Martin. Jack Martin's going to be your starting kicker. He's going to kick off. He's going to do PATs and field goals. There might be a situation where Joseph Kim kicks long ones, but I don't know that 100% for sure. Willie Fritz does focus on special teams more than any coach I've ever seen. I've been in practices with Nick Saban, Les Miles, Art Briles, Kevin Sumlin, Levine, Major, Tom Herman, Dana, Jerry DiNardo. And I've never seen a coach focus on special teams quite like this guy does. So that excites me as a special teams guru, nut, weirdo. But plug, gocougs.com. You can go to our homepage and click on fall camp and find 30 some odd pieces of content on fall camp. You're not finding that anywhere else. Tonight, we have our live podcast talking about them Cougars. This is our 7th year doing it, but this is the first time we've ever done it live. And it's going to be either awesome or a complete disaster. And you should be there to see whichever one it ends up being. We'll have Kelvin Sampson, Austin Carlisle, the high school recruit, Joseph Manjack, and Jaden York from the football team, and the Godfather, Galen Robinson, talking about his summer, what's going on with him, and what he's seen from this new U of H team.
Sounds good. Once again, Ryan Monceaux from gocougs.com. Thank you for taking the time out of your Sunday afternoon.
Anything for you, Andy.
I appreciate that, Ryan. I'll toss it over to Kris. Anything you'd like to plug, sir, and where can people find you?
Ryan, thank you very much, man, for joining us. Appreciate you and your insight. I'll have a Folks Talking Sports live stream tonight at 6 p.m. with Willie Gibson, my colleague from Ohio. We'll talk probably some Big Ten football and a little local flavor as well. But Monday, the press release for the Battleground 2K24 will be released, and there should be some ticket info in that release about how to get tickets for the Cougs Auburn game. And of course, Rice playing Florida State too. But as far as we're concerned, Cougs and Auburn, that game is November 9th. And as always, since 1994, the Houston Round Ball Review, local name, global perspective.
And as always, Dayon, you get to close us out, sir.
Of course, thanks, Ryan, again for joining us. Be sure to tune in with Ryan and the awesome show that he has tonight. Also, Kris Folks Talking Sports tonight as well. Also have another podcast that I'm working on, just interview Dwayne Bacon, NBA player. It's going to be various topics as we discuss, and I'll have that roll out here in the next coming weeks. But it's always good talking Cougs. Glad they got Eddie Nunez, and I'm excited to see what levels he's able to take the University of Houston to. It's been a pleasure talking to you guys, man. I'm looking forward to the football season and doing this routine as we've been doing for years now. And so, as always, go Cougs.